Hey guys, my name is Rory, and my mate Andy and I we operate a social enterprise in Mount Roskill where we live and work called Critical Pixels Design. Um, so first of all, we're sorry that we can't make these scary conversations as we have a commitment elsewhere, but we are glad that conversations like this are happening more and more, where people are getting together to talk about what faith looks like and how faith has changed over generations. Because let's be honest, one day our kids will look back at us and go, intentional living, are you guys still talking about that crap? So anyway, like Sarah have asked if I could speak a little bit about our work and what we get up to, and so I'm going to try and do that this morning as best as I can. I really struggle to do that. So I guess Critical Pixels, it's really a response to the observations that we have made living in the Mount Roskill community. So out of many different observations, one of them that we saw is this phenomena called gentrification that is happening, which is essentially rich people moving in and poor people getting kicked out. And it's a very common phenomena in sort of population movement. So post-war Germany, the same thing happened. You know, Ponsonby, exactly what happened in Glen Innes is the same. And it's this idea that the real estate market, land becomes desirable, and the real estate market essentially takes control over the land. And where you have families and individuals who live in like a state house for generations, 20, 30, I don't know how many years, who's had really strong social bonds with the other neighbours and with the other kids, essentially are left in a position where they have no options and power but to get kicked out. It used to be Mangere, and now it's pretty jury. So gentrification, I suppose, in itself, it's not a straightforward problem. It's what I guess it's what sort of social innovators called a wicked problem or a messy problem. And often a messy problem needs messy solutions. You can't solve it by one thing, one task, but you have to almost partner up together and try very many small and different iterations. So, with that in mind, Critical Pixels didn't start off as a business or as a studio or as a design or as like a design workshop or architecture studio. It really was just that response, and we ask ourselves, how might we empower our neighbors through an innovative design process and open source technology. So the empowerment is kind of the heart, is the why of what we do. If I can illustrate that to you, maybe one example is we are working with this group of 6 boys who Michael Smith has journeyed with in our neighbourhood, and it was kind of cool because all these boys, they all live in my street, and we kind of got together and we asked, hey guys, like, do you want to do something? Because Michael said to us, in the scope of youth work, if you want to become a rugby player, there's all the mentors in the world. But if you want to explore design and architecture and that kind of stuff, there's virtually no one out there. So with that in mind, we got together, we sat down, and we asked these guys, hey, like, do you guys want to start an enterprise that you guys will own one day? And in the first 3 months, we taught them sort of very basic design skill, like using Rhino, which is a modeling program, and using a 3D printer. And each of these young guys designed a vase, which they then essentially designed it on the page, then made the model on the computer, and then the computer brought it into a 3D printer, and the 3D printer made these vases, which then went and essentially sold in different at the Cyber Park markets. And then the profit came back. And each of these young guys have like a card and access to the bank account, and we all sit down and we decide, hey, like, what do you want to do with the profit? You want to take a cut, or do you want to invest it back into a business? And it's done by a majority vote. And so it's design, but it's also, I think, giving that sense of ownership. So I guess we're in our second year. It's a beautiful journey, and sometimes it's bloody hard. And I find that for these young guys, they're incredibly talented and able, but due to many circumstances, like the school system doesn't quite work for them. And so we're just trying to find together as a partnership. So I'm not their boss, I'm kind of their mate, and we're sort of doing this enterprise together alongside Critical Pixels as we're trying to figure out what it is that we want to do. So that's maybe one example. The second example is, which I'm really passionate about one day, is that how might one day, when a new development project happen for the local community, instead of people contracting to Fletcher Construction and hiring outside professionals, how do we create a process where individuals, local residents who's been here and understand the place for a long time, can design and then build that building, that project, that park bench, that new park, that new bridge, that new community centre, whatever. How do we create that space where people can do that themselves, where people can then take ownership over their land? And so one example is we got asked to do a fit out in the Wesley Community Centre, and we started off with council asking us if we can just design this room. Eventually we then initiated, we had a few chats with some pretty awesome individuals and collectives in this community, and we formed a community collective. And in the community collective together, we essentially designed the series of furniture and decided how we might co-program that space together with council. And the idea is that we essentially designed these kind of frame. As one idea, we designed these frames, and these frames are glorified Lego blocks, they're lightweight, which you can assemble, and then they can become anything: a table, a chair, a wall, an art exhibit. They can stay in the space, or they can go beyond the space, and they can go and find where people are already gathering and support them and support their work. And so, and so from there, we did the design, and in that process, there's a brilliant individual by the name of Lou, and he's the associate principal of the local intermediate school. And he saw kind of what we were up to, and he basically offered us this wood workshop, which now, from the designs that we've made, the local kids in the local community then built the furniture. So we got some open desks, like these chairs. And when the kids all finished the furniture, we literally walked it one by one across the road. So the idea here is not so much about the end product, as it is important too, but also about the process, and how do we, through a design process, get people to take ownership, so that when gentrification happens and when move shifts, people will not roll over, but people will stay and fight. And so that's kind of the aim of Critical Pixels. We've got no idea what we're going to do in a few years' time, but we have no plans on moving somewhere else out of Roskill. Being a dad and in community, I highly recommend. And so we love what we do. Maybe if I leave you with one last quote by the philosopher Peter Rollins. He wrote this reflection, and he called it. So he wrote this reflection, and he kind of said that, look, if you want to write, if you want to paint, if you want to make art, if you want to do something, it's pretty go find another job, go do something else. You're not going to last. But if you must, or if you need to write, if you need to make music, if you need to build furniture, if you need to design, if you need to work with kids, then that is your curse. You can't do anything else but that. It's the mantle, it's the burden which you need to carry. And I guess for me, the journey of living in Roskill, I don't know, sort of being in relationship with people who are very different to me, a lot less privileged than I am, yet realizing I take as much from my neighbours as they give me, made me see a lot of things that I can't unsee. It's like when you meet Jesus, you can't unmeet Jesus. And so in many ways, this thing that we're doing, I don't exactly know what it is, but it's what I must do. It's my curse. And so my hope for you, if you are going to explore this journey of intentional living, is I really hope you guys will find your curse. You will find the thing that you cannot not do. So yeah, that's what the journey of living in community did for me. Shot guys, have a good time. And if you're ever around Mount Roskill, come visit me in Wesley Intermediate. See ya.